Commissioner Windmiller, we are live and ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners meeting for the Bi-State to order. It's Friday, September 28th, 2020. I'm sorry, September 25th at 8:30 a.m. Myra, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Windmiller,
Present.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Simmons,
Here.
Commissioner Gully, Commissioner Gully,
Present.
thank you. Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Pistello, Commissioner Galladay, Commissioner Beach,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Johnson is just now joining the meeting.
Welcome, Nate.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Myra, do you need to officially ask him if he's here?
I think it's duly noted.
Thank you. We have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to ask now if any public comment cards were submitted.
Commissioner Windmiller, no, there were no comment cards submitted for today's meeting.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes from the June 26, 2020 Board of Commissioners open meeting. I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item is item number 5, minutes from the July 7th, 2020 meeting of the Executive Committee, open meeting. Minutes have been provided for review by the board. A motion is needed to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next is item 6, minutes from the August 26, 2020 special meeting of the Board of Commissioners, open meeting. Again, minutes have been provided for review by the board and a motion is needed to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Was there a second? I'm sorry.
Second. Simmons.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the report of the president. I would ask President Talby Roach for comments.
Good morning, everybody. Chair Windmiller, I'm going to reserve my comments for executive session. I do have a brief report in executive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Talby. We now will move to the report of the Combined Operations Committee and Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee. We're scheduled to have both myself and Commissioner Zimmerman give the report, but since he might have to step out, I'm going to give the report for both of us. So a combined meeting of Operations Committee and Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee was held on August 27th, 2020, immediately following a special meeting of the board. The draft minutes of that meeting are included in your board packet today under tab number 8. We are introducing 4 items on the consent agenda for your consideration today under item number 11 with the committee's recommendation for approval. The consent agenda items include a single bid contract with Dove Equipment, paint booth man lifts replacement, resolution number 1077. A contract modification, a time extension of contract with Jacobs Engineering for general on-call GEC engineering and design work and consulting services, resolution number 1078. A sole source contract with INIT for co-pilot retrofit project. That's resolution number 1079. And an MOU between St. Louis Regional Freightway, St. Louis Community College, Schneider National Carriers for the administration and implementation of a truck driving training and apprenticeship program, resolution number 1080. At the August meeting, several reports were provided to the committee, including Treasury safekeeping quarterly accounts, an annual FY 2021 annual audit work plan, by state safety oversight, a 2019 annual update, an IAD audit follow-up summary for the fourth quarter of 2020, an IAD status report for the fourth quarter of 2020, an IAD SSO status report for the second quarter of calendar year 2020, Treasury safekeeping accounts audit, which ended June 30th, 2020, pension plans, 401k retirement savings program, OPEB trust investment performance update as of June 30th, 2020, an update on our risk management insurance program, an FY 2020 quarterly financial statement report, fourth quarter ended June 30th, 2020, the treasurer's report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2020, a quarterly procurement report for fiscal year 2020, compliance and ethics state of the agency, and a Metro Transit operations report. This concludes the report of the Combined Operations and Audit, Finance and Administration Committee meeting. Are there any questions? Seeing none. In terms of the consent agenda, either Barb or Myra, are we voting on that later in the agenda?
Yes, you still have the security subcommittee, and then we move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you. So I'll move now to item number 9 on the agenda, which is a report of a security subcommittee, and Commissioner Simmons will give the report.
Madam Chairman, a meeting of the Security Subcommittee was held on August the 13th, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. The draft minutes of the meetings are included in your board packet today under tab number 9. We are introducing one item from the August 13th meeting on the consent agenda for your consideration today under item 11, with the committee's recommendation of approval. Consent agenda item E is a law enforcement service agreement with the St. Clair County, Illinois Sheriff's Department, resolution number 1081. In addition, at the August 13th meeting, the committee was provided an update regarding the Metro Transit Ride and Abide policy. This concludes my report as the chair of the subcommittee.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Are there any questions for Commissioner Simmons? Hearing none, I will move on and we'll go to item number 10, the adjustment of the consent agenda. Are there any adjustments that commissioners would like to make to the consent agenda? Seeing none, a motion is needed to approve the consent agenda as presented. The items are listed under number 11 on the agenda. I went over them, and as did Commissioner Simmons in our report. I don't think I need to read them again. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Myra, do we need a roll call vote for this?
No, a voice vote's fine.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item number 12 is the contract award for the Metro Platform Cleaning Services, resolution number 1085. I think Greg Smith is here to provide comments for us.
Yes, I am. Thank you. We are presenting to the Board of Commissioners for approval a request to enter into a contract with Katzim Enterprises for cleaning services to be performed on all Metro platforms, including the Swansea Maintenance of Way Department office, in accordance with the terms and conditions within the solicitation scope of work. The contract period of performance would be 5 years. On January 24th, 2020, by state issued solicitation 20 RFP 106734BH Metro Platform Cleaning Services to obtain proposals from qualified firms to provide services on a daily basis and weekends as needed. The areas throughout the agency that are to be served are all Metro platforms located on both the red and blue lines, as well as the Swansea Maintenance of Way. Excuse me. 8 proposals were received, reviewed, and evaluated in accordance with the evaluation criteria specified in the package. All 8 proposals were deemed responsible and responsive and were forwarded to the evaluation committee for evaluation. Cost and technical scores were combined, and the results were Katzum Enterprise was number 1 with a score of 313.94, all the way to the lowest of D'Angelo Brothers at 193.46. Again, we had 8 responsive bidders, which is excellent. Katzum, of course, is the overall highest ranking firm. Management recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve a request to authorize the President and CEO to enter into a 5-year contract with Katzum Enterprises to provide cleaning services on all Metro platforms as specified. The total 5-year amount is $11,200,000. Funding sources are provided through the operating budget.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 13, a contract award to MERS Goodwill for cleaning of the Deboliver facility and the Deboliver bus cleaning, resolution number 1086. Again, I would ask Greg for comments.
Thank you. We are presenting to the Board of Commissioners for approval a request for authorization to award a 5-year contract with funds to be committed annually for bus cleaning facility, bus and cleaning facility at the Deboliver location. This item has not been presented to any committee. However, due to the timing of the purchase, the President and CEO has placed this on the agenda for today. By state issued solicitation 20 RFP 106720 Deboliver facility and bus cleaning on May 20th, 2020 to provide all equipment and supplies, material, labor, supervision, staff, transportation to provide cleaning of the facility and the buses. On April 27th, 6 bids were received in response to the solicitation, of which 5 were deemed responsive and evaluated on their technical merit. After completion of the technical evaluation, 1 vendor was deemed non-responsive and eliminated from further consideration. On July 29th, as part of the technical requirement, the top 4 vendors were to demonstrate their ability to do detailed cleaning of the buses. They were evaluated and scored by 4 by-state development team members. The contractors were informed of the process and asked how many employees would be detailing a bus should they be awarded the contract. They were then instructed to only use that number for their demo, but were allowed to have supervision. The cost was evaluated using a pre-established formula where the firm with the lowest cost proposal received the maximum score of 150. Each firm thereafter received points inversely related to the cost proposal amount. The maximum attainable points for technical cost and cleaning was 628. As you see from the scores, MERS Goodwill scored the highest at 507, and we had a range down to 203. It is requested that the board approve this request to authorize the president and CEO to award a contract to MERS Goodwill in the amount of $5,700,000 for the 5-year period.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah. Commissioner Simmons, which company scored the 203? I don't see a 203. I see a 263.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? 263. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a question. Were there different vendors that actually applied for the platform cleaning services versus this facilities cleaning service?
Some are the same and some are different. Each one of these suppliers has their niche that they're interested in, and that I think that really drives which one of them they're going to bid on which area. Both MERS and CATSM have been longtime excellent suppliers to Bi-State. So one of the reasons we've held off on this is we don't want to do any changing during the COVID crisis. So that's why you've seen the delay here in getting this done. But we are extremely comfortable with the two highest scoring suppliers.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item is item 14, which is a sole source contract with Safety Vision for CCTV upgrades for MetroBus and Metrolink systems. This is resolution number 1087. There's material in your board book about it, and I would ask Jessica Mefford-Miller for comments about this.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have before you today a white paper asking you to consider and approve a sole source procurement with Safety Vision, Inc. for the purchase of closed circuit television cameras for our MetroBus and our Metrolink fleet. This not to exceed contract would be in the amount of $1.67 million. This contract would include 174 cameras for a MetroBus fleet and 84 cameras for our Metrolink fleet. The light rail replacement represents 100% replacement of our cameras, and the 174 cameras on MetroBus replaces the balance of the fleet that has not yet been upgraded, and all new vehicles coming in would have this new technology. This is a continuation of an existing program installing the same Safety Vision 4100 equipment that already exists across much of our MetroBus fleet, as well as much of our Call-A-Ride fleet. Our new paratransit vehicles are also coming equipped with this new technology. We anticipate repopulating our entire paratransit fleet in the next 3 years. And so this procurement would signal the beginning of the last phase of camera system upgrades. Now, this is part of a much larger effort to improve our operating systems and maintain them in a state of good repair. The existing cameras that we have on this system today have long exceeded the end of their useful life. And useful life for equipment like this is typically about 5 to 7 years. This is also part of our larger efforts to upgrade some of our operating systems to meet our safety and security and our operational goals. We have a new internal camera assisting working group that consists of technical team members who are responsible for maintaining and supporting both our mobile cameras and our fixed cameras. And by the way, today we're focused on mobile cameras in this procurement. And it also includes our internal stakeholders who are the end users of this technology, including MetroBus, Metrolink, and Call-A-Ride operations and public safety and security. This new technology offers some features that our existing cameras do not. Notably, it includes a much larger memory storage that's going to allow us to record more data and greatly increase the likelihood that when we need to pull video or audio footage, because audio is included, that data would still be available on the conveyance. We would still be probing the vehicles to obtain that data, though we don't have to physically pull tapes. So that's also going to increase the reliability. These cameras come equipped with the potential for what we call awareness monitors, and we have them installed on some of our buses today. Awareness monitors allow us to display in video on board the vehicle what we're seeing on the camera, and that can greatly discourage undesirable behavior. But those monitors can also be used for marketing and customer information purposes. Another key feature is Wi-Fi look-in capability. We're working right now to deploy system-wide Wi-Fi. And what that means is that within our control center, which houses our public safety, Metrobus, and Metrolink dispatch teams, we would be able to reach in live and to a bus if an operator reports an incident, is experiencing distress, or is even experiencing a mechanical problem at their control panel that might be able to be we might be able to troubleshoot that with the help of the dispatch team. So we very much look forward to that. This is again a continuation of our programs. Additional programs looking ahead that you will see will include upgrades to our fixed cameras, which are primarily at Metrolink stations, transit centers, and across our operating facilities. That would be a separate procurement. So again, this procurement with Safety Vision is a continuation of our existing program. All of our new cameras on the system today are of the Safety Vision 4100 model. Are there any questions I may answer?
Yes, this is Commissioner Simmons. Jessica, you said that our team of technical people helped put this together. Do you know if Mr. Farthing was a part of that technical team?
Yes, Commissioner Simmons, Mr. Farthing is actually on point for our mobile systems from the technical team. Yep, so we have our radio maintenance team, which is led by Mr. Farthing, that's responsible for all of our mobile cameras. And then we have a team within Metrolink Maintenance of Way that's responsible for all of our fixed cameras. So all of the information I'm sharing with you today has been vetted and recommended by Mr. Farthing himself.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got go ahead, Rose. I'll go after you.
No, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to comment that I think the need is great for this. If you haven't yet, I strongly recommend it. I know Rose has, but Commissioner Cox and I, a couple of weeks ago, underwent the security tour with some of the security team, and part of that was seeing some of the monitors and the video capabilities, and some of the footage is it just demonstrates certain cameras are just not up to the current status level that we need. So I think the need is greatly there. I just had two questions, Jessica. Anytime it's a sole source, whether it's $500,000 or $5 million, I just always like to ask, what do we do to confirm this is a fair price for this? I guess one, to make sure we are getting a fair value for these cameras. And then also, I think you kind of alluded to it in your comments, but we buy these. What new capabilities are we going to utilize? I know Commissioner Cox and I talked at length with some of the security staff about some of the near-term goals with respect to using better cameras to actively monitor situations, to maybe look places where we don't currently have a security presence, or like you said, we maybe anticipate an issue. So I just wanted to make clear kind of once we spend this $1.6 million, what's the timeline for getting it set up, and what do we think we can immediately do?
Okay, so a few answers. So this camera system, it's an extension of our existing program. So when we began deploying the Safety Vision 4100 cameras, those were competitively procured. And so now our recommendation is to continue with the same camera system on the balance of the fleet. We are implementing this upgrade program incrementally over time as funding is permitted. Within our FY21 and FY23 operating budget, you may recall that we have included a significant investments in our operating systems, including camera system upgrades, Wi-Fi, upgrades to our fiber optic network, as well as our SCADA, our supervisory control and data acquisition rail systems control software. So this is part of that program. I recommend that we continue with the same technology so that it's compatible across the entire system. It's also compatible with the operation system that we use to retrieve and review the data. So for example, I could recall data right here from my desk in my office using this software. And that's especially important because that's what makes it meaningful. The camera data itself isn't inherently meaningful. It's what we do with it. And we already have that back-end system. So I'd like to continue that same technology. And in terms of what's different or what are we going to do now, in addition, just to a greater, I think you must have seen, Commissioner Zimmerman, some of the pixelization and some of the image quality that we have out on the system, especially if you were within the control center, you were seeing our fixed cameras And that's an upgrade that will come, and we'll talk about that in the future. But we've got the same kind of challenges with our mobile systems. One of the great challenges with the mobile system is today, especially on our light rail vehicles, none of which have been upgraded, it's not guaranteed that if we have an incident occur, that we're going to be able to pull that tape even within the 48-hour window that we strive for, that incident is going to be on record. Right now, the LRV cameras, they update every 48 hours on a rolling window. So if something happens right now at 8:55 and we pull the tape tomorrow morning, it might have already overwritten. And that's a critical gap in an important information source. So having this greater bandwidth or storage capacity on these systems is going to be very valuable. And that's true across each of the camera systems. I'm very excited about look-in capability. Think about our bus operators right now who are out there on the system, almost like lone wolves. They're out there, they're connected via a radio system, but now we'll be able to be connected via video as well. So that dispatcher, that manager, if someone calls in, they can look in live and see and hear what the operator is experiencing, and also have a voice that's going over that the customers can hear it. We've already begun using a little bit of a different kind of lower grade technology, our radio system, where our dispatchers are calling over the radio to specific buses to do a safety check. We're doing that very loudly so that customers can hear. We say, operator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is a safety check. Is all well on your bus? And we've noticed that has an impact to ameliorate negative behavior amongst the customers, and it gives our operators a greater sense of safety and security, and that is so important. Have I answered your questions?
Yeah, I think simply put, and again, I don't want to speak for my 9 other colleagues, but I don't memorize all of the vendors we use. So this is an ongoing vendor that we've used. This is their product. We're familiar with it. We like it, and this is the going rate.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm good with it then. And you're 100% right. The pixelization, it's just not what it needs to be. So hopefully this helps out a lot with that. So
it will.
Yeah, that was kind of my question and my comment. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have one question and one comment. First of all, I appreciate that Metro Operations is moving in this direction, and I understand why we need, the importance of a sole source contract for this, for continuity's sake. The question I have is, we haven't upgraded the CCTV since 2009, so that's 11 years, and in terms of technology, that's an incredibly long time. How long do we anticipate that this new technology will be not only acceptable but helpful? And the comment I wanted to make is, not only I think is this new camera system going to help Metro, I think it's going to be great for our partners, for the folks that also have camera systems that are either adjacent to or on the platforms, so that we can really cohesively work with organizations and police departments and municipalities to keep the system safe.
So we're also, I should mention, we're working with our IT team and our police partners, designing this system to make it available and accessible to the City of St. Louis's real-time crime center. So it'll go to our real-time crime center that's being developed at our main shop operating facility, as well as our police partners. And that's especially helpful. We're primary consumers, but we're also going to share this data to our secondary consumers or partners. And to your question, Commissioner Windmiller, so it's about a 5 to 7 year life cycle for these cameras. This project itself would be completed in less than 18 months, and that includes the time to issue a notice to receive the equipment and then to install all of these cameras across the system. Remember that the new vehicles that are coming in, our buses and caller ride vans, are coming in equipped from the menu at the time of they're put into service with this equipment. So with this program and then the replacement cycle for our caller ride vehicles, all of our mobile cameras would be replaced within the next 3 years.
That's great news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the sole source contract?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item number 15. It's a follow-up report from the Operations and Financial and Audit Committee meeting. And I would ask Mark Vago to make some comments, and this is for informational purposes only.
Thank you, Commissioner Winmiller. The question was really, why was the accounts payable due balance so high for the riverboats and the Arch? What this really talks about is what has been going on at the riverboats as far as what their volume and capacity really is versus what's happened during COVID. We also had a dry dock inspection, which was over $300,000, and that really gave us that riverboat balance and why it increased. That one concerns me slightly, only because the riverboat tends to be very fickle when it comes to the weather, correct? They're a little bit more dependent on how the weather goes and how the river goes as far as their operations and getting that paid back. On the Arch, there was a miscommunication between Treasury and accounting that went on for about a year over some information related to the loan. So that accounted for about $3.8 million of the 6.2 that should have been transferred that was missed on our part. So that brings that balance that was due way down. And again, the outstanding balance concerns me less with the Arch. Once COVID is over, the Arch has a history of very good financial performance, and that would probably be paid back in a very short period of time. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone have any questions for Mark? I just have a brief one. If the riverboat is ostensibly not able to regain, customers and tourism, what at the end of the year do you anticipate would be the cost that they would owe the agency?
It could probably be over 2 million, 2.5 million.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and just to comment briefly, Commissioner, there's no question the riverboats are our loss leader. Difficult operation. Not only has it been affected by COVID, but prior to that, the year before, it's been affected by flooding, which also has impacted the operation. I have had a specific conversation with our policy leaders to be sure that this was a venture they wanted to continue. So far, that answer has been yes, but it's a hard operation. There's no question.
And no doubt we'll have to make some decisions about that in the future.
Agreed.
Any other questions for Mark?
I have a question for Tavi. Which policy leaders chime in on the benefits or weigh in on the benefits of keeping the riverboat operation or not?
So when I go over the nuances of the budget, I talk directly with the county executive, Sam Page, with the county board chairman, Mark Kern, and of course the mayor of St. Louis. So that's a conversation I have during, prior to the formal budget presentation that I make to each individual larger entity. And that's just to reiterate, what are the other pieces of our operation. But also then, of course, ultimately the decision also is of this board. And the financial impacts of this then have to do with the policy decisions that you all are telling me to do. And it needs to be brought to your attention that the riverboats are a very difficult venture and a loss leader. And so that certainly needs to be seen in context, Commissioner. And I would concede the point that I just want you to know I do bring it up. And I haven't been told, look, this is just something to reconsider, but I've told them that this is something that the board and staff is obviously troubled by, and it's a tough operation to run. And we need to see it in the context of, is this worth it as far as the region to continue to run a venture like that? So I'm just trying to add the context to the overall decision, and I'm just advising you of what I've done. And so it has been really an advice. I haven't been told what to do by any of them, but I do regularly inform them of how not only the transit venture is going, but how that affects some of the other side ventures, with the riverboats being one of them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a follow-up question to that, which was a very good question. Thank you, Commissioner Gully. Do we own the actual boats?
We do, yes.
So we don't just operate them, we actually own the operation.
That is right.
So I appreciate that you're asking the elected officials for their opinion, but ultimately it's the organization and the board that decides what happens with it.
Without question, yes.
And I'm under the impression that there is no public taxpayer or support revenue or funds that comes to us to support this effort.
No, there is not for this specific effort, as has been modeled in how bi-state has been structured. What we are ultimately doing to simplify this is using the strength of essentially the admin charge to transit, and then taking that money and reallocating to support some of the other ventures. In particular, this has been pointed out, and we've tried to make this a point of emphasis with the riverboats and with the freight district in particular. So therefore, it's important that everybody know and be aware that that is the reality of the financial situation, and that it's my job to bring to you and say, hey, do we want to continue this? And especially given the difficulty of the financial consequences, especially in the terms of the riverboat, boy, this is something we really need to think hard about.
And just so we stay ahead of things, and I don't know if anybody has a different idea or a better idea, it might be helpful to have some type of, I don't know if it's a white paper, I don't know if it's somebody to sit down and maybe crunch the numbers in a little more detail to give us some projections, because this seems to be a little bit more now than just a little blip in the road or a little seasonal weather event. This is kind of becoming a more potentially structural problem. So, they've been, I don't know the whole history. This certainly was, when I came on the board, this is something we did. I think it was, seen as, I don't know if I agree with this, but it was seen as an economic development, kind of venture, or something that added value to the region. So I would at least request, and like I said, if maybe somebody has a different idea, I'd be willing to hear it, but just some type of, kind of overview and series of options be presented to the board for us to kind of consider. So it's not, next meeting we come and all of a sudden it's a rush situation. I'd rather kind of get ahead of it and try to kind of see what we're dealing with sooner rather than later. Just a thought I had.
I'll be happy to do that, Commissioner, and that's exactly why we want to provide these warnings, so that look, we're know where the numbers are now, but clearly this is asking for a larger consideration. And certainly the impacts of COVID has been devastating. One of the things that I have been discussing is, does it make sense to close earlier this year, because we're simply not going to get into it. And so we are asking ourselves those questions to try to be as vigilant as possible. But the long term, I think putting it in better context, I'll be happy to do that, and I'll work with Mr. Vago to try to put a report that puts that context available to the commissioners.
May I add something? So I'm not sure which venture Commissioner Zimmerman was referring to, but in the history of the time I've been on this commission, I've never heard of the riverboat as an economic development effort. However, the freight district has always been framed from that perspective. And I don't know that it behooves us to consider them in the same way. My understanding is for the freight district, the benefits of that are some anticipated long-term benefits, and so are the expectations around the revenue that will be generated from that. So I would just like some more information on what the status is of the freight district and where it's going. My understanding of the riverboat operation is it is something that's just supposed to be self-sustaining, and we do it, and it has a historical relationship to bi-state, but has not been something that was ever deemed something that would fuel economic development in the region.
I would agree with that comment wholeheartedly. I think the boats are obviously more tourism development than a pure economic development standpoint, like the Freightway District is.
But I would say that in previous years there has been somewhat of a mission driven by transit economic development and ancillary activities such as tourism. And I think probably now is a time for the board to determine whether or not those separate entities and separate operational pieces of the organization are doing what they're supposed to do and contributing or revenue, or at least being revenue neutral. And if I look at the history of the riverboat, it isn't just the last year that they've had financial issues. Having them squeeze in and operate in the black has been an issue for at least the time that I've been on board, 2 or 3 years. So I think that's something that I'm hearing from the commissioners that we should think about.
Yeah, I'm not questioning any of that. I'm just, my thought and the question I asked initially around the policy weigh-ins is I wasn't sure whether or not the riverboat was associated with the relationship with national parks as the ARCH effort is. So, but I do think it's important for us not to put all of what we refer to as ancillary operations in one bucket, and make sure that they're considered as the individual efforts that they are, a part of what is the Bi-State Development Agency overall entity.
Toby, Commissioner Simmons, you mentioned the COVID having an impact on it, and then prior to COVID, the flooding. Was there anything done on our part during those two situations with the flooding, with trying to recoup any of the interruption of service, either through FEMA during the flooding and now through COVID?
No, from third parties, no. We did furlough and we actually reduced staff on the riverboat to try to accommodate some of those issues, but we did not go to for grant funding associated with FEMA, but I can certainly check into that issue. I think it's a wise thought. And if I can continue to comment, so I can note to the commissioners both things. As a matter of fact, I have good news on the freight district funding, which, correct, is a completely different entity and a completely set of policy differentiations. And actually, we are pursuing additional STP funding over a period of 3 years in a partnership with East West Gateway Coordinating Council, which includes local match, and bringing in some of the other counties that tend to benefit from the freight district in a funding scenario therein. And in that case, I have a commitment from Jefferson County in Missouri, and we're working on St. Charles County there too. So, of course, my job is to note where we have both financial stability, and which I think we're gaining on the freight district standpoint, and of course, ones where we should be looking at this very closely. So I think clearly what you all are telling me to do is to note that a little bit more clearly, which I will be happy to do. And I will also, Commissioner Simmons, I'll look into that. That's a good point, and I don't have a clear answer to that yet.
And it may, like I said, with the CARES Act funding, I don't know if that would qualify for that. So it would be worth pursuing that, I think.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is item 16, the operations report. And I would ask Jessica Mefford-Miller for comments, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. I'll be brief in my remarks today, reserving a more detailed update for our October 16th Operations Committee meeting. A few things I do want to update you on today. It includes capital programs. We are now in the second quarter, in the end of the first quarter of FY21, and we're beginning to implement some of our capital programs that were included in that FY21 and 23 budget. Remember, there was a great focus this time on state of good repair, on our operation systems, which we just talked about with the camera systems, and on our customer-facing amenities and stations. Many of our existing light rail stations that are now 27 years old are falling out of a state of good repair, and so we've got programs planned to bring them up to an attractive asset condition and also making adjustments to create a more pleasant and inviting customer experience. We're also planning to begin upgrades and redesign of some of our existing Metrolink stations. We intend to conduct those designs in a way that better connects the stations to the surrounding environment, that allows us to maintain those stations moving into the future in a state of good repair. So we're looking at the cost effectiveness and life cycle cost of features like outdoor elevators and escalators, and we'll reconsider whether and where those are going to be included in our designs in the future. And then we're also explicitly focused on really trying to connect the stations to developments happening around us, notably at our Forest Park Deboliver Metrolink station. So those are early on in project development, and I look forward to updating you as we move ahead. Now, shifting gears a little bit to talk about operations and ridership. We are at a point where we've got July and August ridership, and we believe that for the near term, ridership has more or less stabilized. So relative to prior year, Metrobus ridership is down about 50%, Metrolink is down 60%, and Call a Ride is down 24%. Of course, we're carrying essential trips on paratransit. So demand is more or less as we expect it to be. I expect to continue on through the winter months at this ridership level. Now we're shifting gears past the November service change. The November 30th service change is going to do some limited service restoration. We're going to add trips in where our service frequency appears too low. We're making some behind the scenes adjustments to prepare for the spring 2021 introduction of battery electric technology to the system. We're shifting our biggest route, the 70 Grand, out of our Deboliver garage and over to our Brentwood garage because it will use our articulated electric buses. We're preparing to launch our training programs for mechanics and Metrobus operators to use that new technology. And actually, our first battery electric bus arrived from Alabama last week, and it is gorgeous. I am delighted about that. We all have an event and share information, and I'll be sure that we get some video and good footage that we can share with you remotely. So that's a big deal for 2021. But now we're shifting our disposition to planning from the trenches, if you will, and COVID response to COVID recovery. So we're looking out at a time beyond the vaccine, if you will, when businesses return to whatever that new normal looks like. We're looking out about 3 years. 3 years from now, 3 years from the time the vaccine would be implemented, hopefully in 2021 and be widespread, looking at 2021 through 2024. So some of the things we're thinking about and are researching is how mobility is changing. Our travel patterns today here in St. Louis, as well as across the country and the world, look different than they did pre-COVID. So we're getting our arms wrapped around that data, not just transit travel patterns, but all mode travel patterns. We're trying to consider how we can shape the reaction and shape how and where people travel and use our system rather than being reactive. So that's why we're reaching beyond our own data streams. We are seeking opportunities to reorient our service and infrastructure. Now, we just did a major service redesign, of course, in fall 2019. We're going to reinforce a lot of those principles of Metro Reimagine, matching service level and service type to the markets and the demand that we serve. And now I'm really pleased that we've got some new tools in our wheelhouse that we can deploy to meet the needs of our customers. We will, of course, as ever, be crafting a service model and an operation program that is financially sustainable, considering that at this moment in time, we're down about 57% in terms of passenger revenue. Not actually quite as bad as I expected, but still a great financial hit. We are focused on equity as well. You know, the travel patterns over the last 6 months have really taught us a lot about where and when and who needs our service most and how much of that service that we need. And so equity is going to be at the fore for our system redesign, not just operations, but also our policy. A major policy piece is our fare policy. At our October operations committee, I'll present to you a draft fare policy for your review and consideration. And that overarching fare policy with its attendant objectives, fare types, and strategies is going to precede the upgrade of our fare collection equipment and technology. We've been experimenting, as you know, with mobile ticketing, and we aim to move swiftly to make that new technology and these new programs part of our permanent fare collection system. We are working to listen to our customers, and just late last night, I received a draft survey report from our customer-facing survey, which asks customers what it takes to get them back on our system and how they're feeling about travel with respect to the coronavirus pandemic. So I'll give you that update in October. We're also reorienting our marketing and communication because we recognize that we are going to have to work very hard to reach out and engage and invite people back to using our system. There are also going to be some changes within the transit team. We've got to rebuild our team, and we have to ensure that they are equipped to fulfill the needs of the new system, to meet the needs of our customers, to respond to all of the new technology we're rolling out, from the camera systems to the electric buses to the fare collection program. So workforce training and development is a big part of where we're heading in the next year or two. So that concludes my report today. Again, we'll have a deeper discussion, and I look forward to sharing some of this information with you in paper form for the October meeting packet. Are there any questions for me about operations? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We can move on to unscheduled business. Toby, is there any unscheduled business?
No, Commissioner, thank you.
Then Myra, will you actually call the dates for future meetings, please?
Yes, the next meeting of the Security Subcommittee meeting is scheduled for October 8th at 8:30 a.m. The next Operations, Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee meeting will be held on October 16th at 8:30 a.m. And the next Board of Commissioners meeting is scheduled for Friday, November 20th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you so much. Under number 19 on our agenda is a move to go into executive session. So I need a motion that this committee go into executive session for the purpose of discussing legal, confidential, or privileged matters as permitted under Bi-State Development Board Policy, Chapter 10, Section 10.080, D1, legal, D2, real estate, D3, personnel, and D4, auditors. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Would you call the roll, please, Myra?
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Gully,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thanks all. We'll see you in a few minutes in the executive session.
Thank you, commissioners. We are ready.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are now reconvening Our Board of Commissioners meeting, Friday, September 25th, 2020. The board has reconvened to open session. Per board policy, no final action votes will be taken in closed or executive session. For items requiring final action, a roll call vote shall be taken in open session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 26, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting, executive session as a closed record?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Gully,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including the draft fuel hedging audit, on-call contract audit, resolution number 1082, and draft disadvantaged business enterprise audit, resolution number 1083?
Moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Gully,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the draft Cortex Metrolink Station construction audit, resolution number 1084?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gully,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Abstain.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the release of information from executive session minutes, Board of Commissioners and committee meetings, January 2019 through December 2019, with the redactions as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Gully,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you, Myra. If there's no further business, I would request a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Everyone have a great weekend and thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Bye-bye.